Howdy, howdy, y'all. Welcome back to some Antics. Is good to be here. I've been having a little bit of hijinks with floating point precision today. That's been really fun. It turns out 0.55 times 100 is equal to 55.00001%. And that's annoying. So that's what I've been dealing with. But I'm super excited to be here and to be live with my good friend Alex. Alex, hello.
Hello.
It's good to
Glad
have
to
you on the
hear
yeah.
that
It's good to have you on the stream.
floating point bites everybody. And it's
Soon,
good to be here. Yes, certainly.
Sooner or later, floating point comes for us all. It might not come precisely, but it comes for us all. Yeah. So, Alex, since I've got you here, would you like to introduce yourself to the chat?
Yes. Hello, everyone. I'm Alex. You can find me on Twitter at ralex1993. I am a React and TypeScript developer, and I'm currently working for a company called UI.dev. We make courses for web developers. So since I've been there, oh, look, there it is. Yeah, since I've been there, I've created the courses for TypeScript and TypeScript with React. So if you're interested in learning TypeScript, check it out. We have a lot of really exciting things coming very, very soon that should definitely look out for. Lots of free content, lots of extra content for our subscribers. So definitely a great time to get into UI.dev if that's what you're into. Otherwise, I like working on little games here and there, and you'll see Reaction, which I've been working on lately as we work on that today. And I just got a new daughter. She's 3 months old now, so that's really exciting, and that takes up most of my free time. So that's
Absolutely.
me. If you have any other questions about me, feel free to hit me up in the Twitch chat. I'm happy to talk about myself, certainly, but I also want to talk about what we've got here today. So
Yeah. Which is
let's take it away.
we're going to be playing around with 3D stuff, specifically 3D browser games, and adding accessibility into that. And yeah, I think this is so far out of the realm of the stuff I'm used to, right? Like it gets to the point where like I question like, does semantic markup matter here? Like probably gonna be uh an unusual world, but then at the same time other things totally still apply, like things like keyboard navigation and screen reader announcements and stuff like that. So I'm interested to see what the intersection of that is. And 3D itself is an interesting space just because um like when we talk about 3D games, like that comes in tons of different flavors.
Absolutely.
Was wondering if you'd like to talk about that a bit.
Certainly. So just because we're working in a browser doesn't mean that we don't have access to all of the powerful 3D capabilities that you can get elsewhere. I mean, I'm sure some of us have seen some like first person shooters in the browser. Some of us might have seen 2D browser games that are networked and animated and stuff like that. The game we're going to play today, it's called Reaction. It's a golf style puzzle game, which we'll see in just a minute.
Yeah, let me
Um,
go ahead and run that while you talk.
yeah, go ahead. Um, but the key thing is just to remember, for one thing, the web doesn't limit you very much when it comes to these 3D things. It's perfectly capable. JavaScript's a great language for writing browser-based games, and WebGL is incredibly powerful as well. And then, like Ben was saying, all of the same considerations that you have making web apps are very important when it comes to making games as well. You want to make sure that your game is accessible to as many people as possible so that as many people as possible can enjoy it. And a great example of that I'm going to throw in the Twitch chat really quick. And Ben, if you have that up, it's the
Yes.
PlayStation link for The Last of Us Part 2, which is, I haven't played it. I don't own a PlayStation, but I am super impressed by the amount of effort that they've put into the accessibility features of this game. So as Ben gently scrolls through the page, I'll just highlight some of the fascinating things that they've added. Um, they've made it so that you have access to all kinds of things that you don't typically think of in games. So usually you're able to remap buttons and such, and sometimes you have the ability to adjust the size of things. But with this game, they've gone above and beyond with subtitles, with extra indicators here and there. They've changed the behavior of some of the AI for the NPCs, the non-player characters, so that they behave slightly differently for players that need a little bit of extra time to do certain things because of some kind of motor challenge. That I've heard, I haven't actually seen this done, but I've heard that it's possible for a completely non-sighted person to play The Last of Us 2 just because of all of the features that they add. So check out that link, go through all of those, and just be amazed at the thoughtfulness that's gone into it, and some of the videos too that demonstrate these features. So for our game, it's significantly significantly simpler than a first-person shooter in a relatively open world. And I think now we can have Ben demonstrate the game for us.
Let's play the game so that way we can kind of talk about what some of the specific accessibility requirements we might meet, what we might have would be. Real quick, from the chat, we've got a question from Travis. He's asking about what you mean by a golf-style puzzle. If I had to intuit, that sounds like we're doing something in the fewest moves possible.
Exactly. And you'll see that as we get into the game itself.
All right, so I'm going to start playing this, and should I do the tutorial? Is there any particular one you want me to pull up?
Let's go through the tutorial really quick just so that we can see all of the different pieces that we use.
Okay.
So everything that you've seen up to this point, other than that fancy background, is done in just regular HTML. But now everything that we see here, other than the buttons at the bottom and the text at the top, that's all a 3D generated view with the sun and the planet and these atoms. And the goal of the game is to burst all of these atoms in as few moves as possible. So you can see we've got strokes on the top left, and in the top right, we have par as 10. So we're trying to do this in 10 or fewer moves. And to make a move, you just click on one of the atoms.
Okay.
As you can see, we've got 3 levels of atoms with different colors. And I know this probably doesn't fit color accessibility requirements. That's not what we're going to worry about today, but it's something that's on my mind. Don't worry.
Cool.
Maybe I'll add a setting someday where you can switch it so that it has more high contrast.
As a side note on color contrast, just because sometimes people can find extreme color contrast, like really high color contrast, like unusable as well. I've been really interested to see Discord recently, because Discord just had their big rebrand, and as part of that, they're using higher contrast colors, and people noted, hey, this isn't working for me, I'm finding this less usable. And so now the Discord accessibility team, including Brandon Dale from previously from the React Core team, they've
what a great guy.
Yes, at some point I'll have to have him on as well. But
sure.
They added a like saturation slider, so you can choose for yourself like whether you want higher contrast or lower contrast, and I find that really, really interesting as well.
Yep.
So okay, so
and I don't know how hard that was for them to do. If I understand correctly, they just have a CSS custom property that adjusts the saturation level. So as long as they're using HSL on all of their colors, it'll work just fine.
That's super cool. Like what a great technique. Yeah, so
we're in the future.
I can click on one of these and it'll what will it do when I click on one of these?
Go ahead, and as you do, I'll explain. They go through 4 energy levels. So we've got the lowest over on the left, and then it increases from there. And then once you click on one that is the highest energy level, it explodes. And it sends particles off in 4 directions.
Okay.
And those particles also charge up atoms. And so the idea is you could create chain reactions by triggering these atoms in the right way. So I'll let you finish up this puzzle really quick. Yeah, you have to click on those smaller ones a couple of times to get them fully charged up. Okay. Now, with just the atoms, it's a little bit boring, so we have some other mechanics, like these arrows, which redirect the direction which the particles are going. So if you click on that fully charged one, you'll see the particle goes up, and then it moves to the side and impacts that other one, and then continues on from there.
Very fun. All right. Nice.
So then we also have mirrors. These are single-sided mirrors that just reflect the particle back the same direction.
I feel like I wasted a particle there, a perfectly good particle.
It's okay. That's just the way that it goes in this game.
Okay,
Remember, you have 8 moves, so it's like you can go ahead and throw some of them away.
fair. Okay, so I'll do that, and then nice.
Then we have angled mirrors. So same principle, except it just changes the direction
Okay,
in an angle.
very nice. Did you have any inspirations while building this game? Like, are there similar games that I didn't do it in
Yes,
far? Okay.
that's okay. That's okay. Um, there was a company in the mid aughts called Freeverse Software. I don't know if anybody's ever played Burning Monkey Solitaire, but that is the most obvious example of their work. They also created a suite of games called Big Bang Brain Games,
Okay.
where it's several different brain games, Minesweeper or matching, Sudoku, and one of their more interesting games was Big Bang Fallacy. And then they had this game, which is my favorite. It's the one that I always played. I think they shipped these with some, like the very first MacBook
Okay.
that that came out way back then. And I loved playing this game as a kid. So the company is now defunct. This game doesn't work. It was only made for older computers and stuff, so it doesn't work on modern computers. And so I reached out to one of the old founders of Freeverse and was like, "Hey, I love this game, and I would love to use it as inspiration for my own game. Can I use it?" And he said, "Sure. Let me know when you finish it." So
Wow.
it's not finished quite yet, but he gave me his blessing. So these are actually the original levels from that game that
Oh,
I
that's so
pulled out of the
cool.
source code. Yeah, it's super cool. I'm super jazzed and a really generous guy. I love it.
All right. So, as we're kind of looking at this game, obviously, like this isn't like a super like intense. You mentioned like first person shooters as an example. Like we're not moving around in a world, um, and really even a lot of the 3D here, so like a lot of the 3D stuff here is more of just a glorified visual effect, not
Exactly.
really critical to the game itself.
Exactly. I actually thought about rewriting it using 2D canvas just to fix some of the performance issues, but it ended up working out.
Good deal. So, as you're looking at this, what are some potential accessibility concerns that you might have?
So the biggest issue is the fact that once you enter the 3D space, you lose all of the uh, keyboard navigation and screen reader support that just comes baked into browsers. That's something that we really take for granted. We talk a lot about how a lot of websites aren't accessible, but they might have a little bit of accessibility, especially if you use correct HTML, if you write your JavaScript correctly, just to sprinkle in the necessary things,
Mm-hmm.
and if you're thoughtful about the way that you're designing your content. But in the 3D world, we're working with a library called React 3 Fiber, which is an abstraction on top of three.js, which is one of the great 3D libraries that helps you write 3D stuff in the browser. And there isn't any of that built-in browser accessibility goodness. So you can't use tab to navigate between the different cells. You can't use your screen reader to navigate around. I can see you using tabs there, and all that it's
Yeah.
doing is just manipulating the HTML elements that are on the page,
And
but
it's
not the 3D
so
elements.
it's just going. In case you couldn't see it, it's over for people in the audience. It's down here at the bottom. I'm tabbing between these two buttons here. That's basically my
Yeah,
only options.
exactly. And the screen reader would pick up the score at the top, so strokes,
Okay.
level, par. But what we really want to do is make it so that if you hit the tab key, you can click on just the atoms. So that's
Yeah.
all that the keyboard navigation is able to do, is the things that you're able to click on. So for
Yeah.
example, those black atoms in the middle, those just eat your particles. They're
Oh, I see.
walls or blockers. So we wouldn't be able to tab into those if we were just using
Hmm.
keyboard navigation.
Yeah.
But then for screen read, oh, go ahead.
Yeah, I'm just thinking like intuitively the closest like the closest HTML analog to each of these atoms seems like a button, right? Like we would need
Exactly.
they're more or less buttons. Buttons everywhere.
Exactly.
Okay.
But
And you
then
talked
for the
about screen
screen
readers.
reader, it gets a little bit more complicated because you need to understand everything that's going on the board. And you can see that it's an 8x8, just like chess. So I actually have never tried playing chess with a screen reader, but I imagine you would need to be able to scroll through each of the individual cells to see what's in that particular cell, get yourself a mental model of that, and
Hmm.
then you can go to uh, the cell that you want to interact with and do whatever you want to do.
Yeah, like I'm instantly wondering whether and I've talked about the perils of using tables for layout, but perils like tables do give you like two-dimensional navigation for a screen reader. Like I'm wondering if that's like a helpful model here or something like that. That would be
Yeah,
interesting.
absolutely. I honestly don't know how we're going to implement it specifically, but that's
Hmm.
a really good mental model for it. This is a table,
Hmm.
an interactive table where each of the cells may or may not have a button, may not have anything in it.
Hmm.
So that's kind of the mental model we should look at. And I think this brings up a really good point that you've probably covered multiple times on the show. But for me personally, I used to work for a company called Instructure. They make the Canvas learning management system. So if you've ever been
Okay.
a student, you might have used it for submitting your assignments online. Um, or if you had the unfortunate experience of using the competitor Blackboard, uh, sorry, we like to make fun of Blackboard at Instructure. I don't work there anymore, and I'm sure Blackboard's great. Uh, but Canvas really cares about making sure that everything is perfectly like as accessible as possible for as many
Hmm.
users as possible. And so we care deeply about making sure that everything was screen reader tested. And I was doing some data visualizations, and it becomes really difficult when you have these complicated data visualizations to know how to make it so that you can understand what's going on with the screen reader. So we had this thing that had 4 quadrants with different students as points in each of the quadrants,
Hmm.
mapped out in a scatter plot. And we had to think to ourselves, like, you can't just use that HTML for the screen reader. It's 2 entirely separate layers that you switch between as soon as you turn on the screen reader and start navigating that way. Two
Hmm.
different user experiences that you have to design.
Absolutely. All right, so we've kind of talked about what we want, right? Like we as screen reader users, we would expect to be able to navigate our grid as though it were a grid in two dimensions rather than linearly. And we need
Mm-hmm.
to be able to know what's in each grid cell. And if it's an actionable atom that we could click, then it needs to be exposed to us in such a way, like basically as a button. Um,
Yep.
Alex, I don't know where to start.
Let's start by talking about React 3 Fiber
Okay,
and go from there. Um,
pull up the code real quick.
so yeah, hopefully people have used three.js before, or no, I can't expect that. So let's start at the very beginning. Any 3D scene, whether it be your favorite Pixar movie or a very simple visualization on the GitHub website, every 3D scene has 3 things. It has objects in the scene that you're looking at. It has lights, which provide illumination for those objects. And it has a camera. So lights, camera, action. The camera is the viewport that you're looking through. And so if you go back to the reaction game, the camera is facing in a direction where we have the planet on one side, the sun on the other, and the game board in the middle. Those are our objects. The sun provides a little bit of illumination, and so that's our light. And then we have those objects in there facing the camera. And what three.js allows you to do is create these objects and then alter their properties. So you can create a sphere, which is how I created all of these atoms. They're all just collections of spheres. And then you can give them materials, which defines the color and the way that the light interacts with them.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, and then if you want, you can create an animation loop, which changes these properties over time. So you can see that we rotate the atoms over time, and we have those particles that spin around the atoms as electrons.
Mm-hmm.
And that's all being animated with a request animation frame in the background. And that's the gist of it. You create all of these objects for everything that you need, and then you place them into your scene. You adjust their position and rotation so that they are oriented the way that you want them to be, and you animate them however you want. And with three.js, you do this entirely imperatively. You have to create each of these objects individually as part of a series of instructions, very similar to creating DOM elements with raw JavaScript or jQuery, if you've ever used jQuery. I know fewer and fewer people these days have used jQuery, for better or worse.
Mm-hmm.
And it is really a lot like the DOM in terms of abstraction. It provides you with all of the tools that you could possibly need, and it makes some things a little bit easy. You don't have to draw every single pixel of every single piece of text onto the DOM when you're writing. You can just throw the text in there and it works. Three.js, you actually kind of do have to do that. It's really hard to put text in 3D, but you can do it, and there are tools that help you do that. But then things like capturing mouse events, like you can't just move your mouse and click on one of these 3D spheres in three.js because that just doesn't come with it. What you have to do is capture the click on the HTML canvas element that the 3D scene is being rendered into, do some math based on the position of your camera, where it's looking, the 2D location of the cursor where you clicked, and where that maps to in 3D space. And then you have to figure out if there are any objects that are between the camera where you're looking from and where you clicked, in order to find out what you clicked on, using what's called a ray caster. It casts a ray from the camera through the point that you clicked. So that's all really complicated. This is where React 3 Fiber comes in. It provides abstractions on top of three.js the same way that React provides abstractions on top of the DOM. So instead of having to manually create DOM elements with React or document.createElement, you just create your div component and assign the props that you want to it, and then React takes care of rendering it to the DOM. And here, I just create my sphere component using the sphere object that comes from React 3, or excuse me, that comes from three.js. And I assigned it all of the props that it needs for the position and the rotation and the materials and everything. And then I can even use a use frame hook, I think is what it's called. So use frame is the name of the hook that gives me access to the request animation frame, and perform some animation. And then I can render that to a 3D scene using the three.js or the React 3 Fiber renderer. So here we can see this is regular React. I have use state that I'm using there. There's the use frame hook where I'm doing a bunch of stuff with the React, or rather the three.js object itself, manipulating it directly.
Is there perhaps a smaller, simpler component I could look at to highlight things?
Right here is actually a good place for us to stop, just to look at this.
Cool.
Actually, no, I lied. Let me think for just a second. Let's look at the mirrors. The mirrors should be pretty simple.
Okay.
Because they don't have any animation. So we're just pulling in a bunch of images that serve as the textures for our object.
Okay.
We pull in those images using the use cube texture hook that comes from React 3 Fiber, dry, which is a helper library that has a whole bunch of extra abstractions just to make things easy. So that's up there, React 3 Fiber dry. Let me post some links in the chat for anybody interested.
I greatly enjoy that this is just the German word for 3.
Exactly. There's dry.
Okay.
So what this does is it lets me pull in 6 different textures and assign them to a cube so that that cube has different textures on every side of the cube. Just makes things a little bit easier for us.
Okay. That's what's happening here. That's what's happening here. Got it.
Exactly. And then I use a memo for creating the geometries, which are the triangles. So we work in boxes in the DOM. For 3D developers, they use everything's a triangle. And so for a sphere, you just have a collection of triangles in a spherical shape. And that's what we're creating here is just that geometry for those
Okay.
spheres. And then down here, we use animated.group. I'm using React Spring for doing some animation for scaling the objects using spring physics, so it looks nice. I assign my geometry as a prop on the mesh component. So the mesh is a combination of geometry and material. That's the thing that actually gets added to our scene that we can see.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm also using the mesh physical material as a child. This is an interesting choice in the React 3 Fiber API, where you can either assign a material that has been imperatively created, or a geometry and a material that have been imperatively created as props, or you can declaratively create your geometry and your material using components in this way, using children.
Yeah.
So
I have a little bit of three.js experience from several years ago, and this was one of the things that took me a long time to realize was kind of the difference between like a geometry and a mesh and a material. And yeah, like the geometry is the actual shape as it exists in the world. Like you said, composed by a bunch of triangles. So, like we're just assembling a bunch of polygons into a shape, and then the material is the texture that wraps around that to give it its both its color but also its response to lighting.
yep. And then the mesh is the combination of those two. The mesh is the thing that has the position and has the rotation. And you can create as many meshes as you want from the same geometry and material. And that's a common thing to do so that you can decrease the amount of resources necessary, memory and CPU
Yep.
for creating
Cool.
all of that. So that's
Yeah.
what's going on here.
All right. And so I guess we've got these shapes that exist in a three-dimensional space. And all of these are, three.js, like we're doing canvas wizardry, right? How do we translate that into a screen reader experience? Like what might we need to do to start? Or how do we translate that into a keyboard experience?
Exactly. And this is something which can be done manually if we wanted to by um, creating the necessary elements in the DOM and just taking advantage of the browser's DOM APIs or the browser's screen reader and keyboard navigation APIs, and then just have that link back to the 3D scene. Fortunately, somebody's made a package that makes that nice and easy for us. It's the same people, the Koi Mandris, they make React 3 and React 3 Dry, and they also made a library called React 3 A11Y, React 3 Alley, React 3 Accessibility, whatever you want to call it. So there's the link to that in the chat as well.
All right.
And here's the link on the stream. And basically, at this point, what we can do is go through the documentation and implement it as we need. If you want, you can do the live demo really quick, just to demonstrate it if you want.
Oh, yes, got it. And so probably I will want to have voiceover on would be my guess, right?
Yeah, I imagine either we can start with the keyboard navigation. Actually, I don't know if this does keyboard navigation. It definitely does screen reader, though.
So I'm tabbing, and I can get between, I see there's there's a few different things. But yeah, so I am tabbing, and this looks like a button to me, so I'm going to hit enter. And I should have put a giant motion warning on the stream.
Sorry.
No, that's totally on me, but
yeah.
Yeah, I guess this is the far too belated motion warning. But yeah, I'm hitting enter while focused on this little triangle here, and it's letting me select. And I'm sure I could click this little donut and oh, okay, light mode or dark mode, very fun.
Mm-hmm.
Cool.
Yep.
But all the I can still click and things still work just fine. So that's really cool. Wonder if there is any screen reader stuff added into this. I'd love to play around with that real quick.
Yeah, so I'm pretty sure it does. And I don't know if you noticed this, but it also is able to detect whether you're focused on one of those elements or whether you've hovered over one of those elements. Hovering is something that you can do easily just by checking, like using the React 3 fiber on mouse enter and on mouse leave events, which is another benefit of React 3 fiber. It takes care of all of the event handling for you.
Okay.
But focus is just a little bit more difficult to do. So you can tell that there's a difference because when I hover, it's green, but when I focus, it's orange.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Yeah.
And the focus is handled by React 3 Ali.
Very cool. Let me see what if any the voiceover experience is. Voiceover always takes a long time to boot up on stream. There we go.
Oh yeah, it takes a long time for me too. The first time.
Voiceover on system preferences. Chrome, playground, spin right, button.
Ooh.
You are currently on a button. To click this button.
Okay, so spin right button.
Spin left button.
All right.
You are currently on a button. To click spin right, light intensity, top.
It'll announce.
I'm sorry, what was that?
If you click the button, it will announce the change that happened.
Unlabeled image. Enter it, link. Spin right button. Chrome has new window. You are currently on a button. To click this button, press Control.
Okay, maybe it didn't.
Maybe not.
It'd be good to know which thing it rotated to.
Yeah, I can see a case for like an Aria live region that just says like icosahedron or sphere or something like that. Like
exactly.
Okay, I'm gonna nuke voiceover real quick.
Voiceover off.
All right, so we want to go ahead and add this library.
Yep.
So let me do that.
So go ahead and npm install that at react-3/a11y / yeah, at react3/a11y. So they use the I can't remember what it's called.
Namespacing?
Namespacing, that's it. Yeah.
Cool.
So the very first thing we need to do is create what's called an Ali announcer component that's exported from React 3 Ali.
Okay.
And that goes in the HTML part of our page. So React 3 Fiber has a special canvas component that it uses to differentiate between like that's the boundary between HTML land and 3D land.
All right, I'm gonna go ahead and npm run dev just so that we've got the Vite server up.
That should be all that we need to do in the terminal from this point on.
I will minimize that then, and we will go ahead and go back here. All right, so probably going to be in your app.tsx.
I believe so.
All right.
There's a couple of things work in progress here that I'm doing for getting. I want to sell this, so you'll get a couple of levels for free, and then you'll be able to pay a small fee for the rest of the levels.
Good deal.
Okay, so that's imported, and now you can render that component just right next to the canvas component, which should be down there, right there.
Yeah, so let me just stick this after. Ali announcer. All right.
And that is what's going to be rendering all of the DOM elements that are picked up by the browser to announce everything that happens. So probably it has an Aria live region built in and anything else that might need to be there.
Very cool. I'd be super curious. Actually, I might just dive into this and see kind of what it's doing. Yes, that's just I'll look into that perhaps later, or maybe we'll get it in when it's on our DOM. But okay, so I've got the Ali announcer. Very exciting.
So now what we can do is import the Ali component, and that component can receive focus.
Okay. Do we import that here, or where are we doing this? Actually, let me put my browser and editor side by side so we can look at the docs some too.
Okay.
There we go.
And you might want to bump up the screen size.
Of the browser?
The docs, yeah.
The docs.
Just a little bit.
Yep.
Sorry, my screen's, I have a teleprompter, and so I'm looking at your screen, and it's very, very small in front of me. So
cool.
the alley component is going to go next to our React 3 fiber components. So for
Okay.
example, the atom is the only thing that can be focused
Mhm.
on the page. So we should go to that. Let me double check.
I mean, presumably this won't let us. This won't keep us from focusing on. You had the buttons at the bottom of the window, and presumably those
I don't
stay
think
fine.
exactly. I think the position of your alley announcer component is going to determine the tab order for those. So the
Got it.
fact that you put it right after the canvas means it'll be exactly where you'd expect it to be.
Cool.
Actually, we want to go to the new atom component.
Okay.
I haven't gotten around to deleting the old atom, but this is
Okay.
the one that's actually getting rendered.
Oh, I see. Okay. There's
Um,
lots of stuff here that I'm going to assume I can just scroll past.
Yep. And I think what we'll want to do is wrap the entire group in the alley component. So just put it right after the return open bracket or open parentheses.
At reality. Okay. And just gonna slide through this. Actually, wait, I want to be up. There we go. All right. My editor is getting a little opinionated about the formatting, but that's not a problem.
That's okay.
And go.
So
See it? Okay, so what is this doing for us? It says it'll add accessibility features. Oh, okay, so this will make it focusable.
Mhm.
It'll emulate focus.
we get
rather.
some
Okay. What's up?
we get some callbacks,
Okay.
and that we can use to do stuff when it is focused.
Oh,
I'm
okay.
pretty sure it. I'll have to look into this just a little bit more carefully to see how specifically we pull out the focus. If we need to like store whether it's focused in a state variable or whether we get access to it with like a render prop, we'll look at the docs and see.
All right.
But here in the docs, a little further down, it talks about the 4 roles of the alley component. So you can have something which is content, and it's meant to serve screen reader. It's meant to provide screen reader information. So we would use the content role for all of our other components, the mirrors, the arrows. We didn't see the wormholes, but we would use it for wormholes.
Okay.
Actually, we can use the content role on the atom because those black atoms that served as walls are going to be content, not buttons. You can't click on them, but they use the exact same component.
Okay.
So let's just demonstrate this really quick by starting with the content role. So that's the prop is role equals content. And then it looks like I'm going to have to go into the actual docs to see more about how to use that.
So I almost feel like we should be setting the role dynamically then. Like if it's an actionable atom, then we need to set it as like role equals button. Otherwise, role equals content.
Exactly. And you can tell the difference by the type prop that comes into the atom component. So if the type is atom, then it's going to be a button. Otherwise, it's going to be content.
So would it make sense for me to do const, maybe I'll just call this alley role equals. Have you already destructured the type by any chance?
Yep.
Type
you can just pull type right off.
Equals and what? Oh, love your typing here. Okay, so this is atom here is what we want, right? If
it's atom, then it's a button. Otherwise, it's a content.
Okay, so I'll go ahead and do that, and maybe that'll help us out. All right, alley roll.
And then what we might want to do, actually, I see that you have the VS Code Live Share extension.
Would you like me to share this live with you?
Would that be possible?
Yes.
Because that way, what we
Yeah.
can do is, as we talk and as you implement certain features, I can start writing descriptions for the different types of atoms that we can have.
Right. Just gonna send this to you over the Zoom chat now that I've got it.
Okay.
Zoom chat and boom. Here's hoping.
Okay. I got it. And let's just open this up. Oh, okay. I've got it open and it's connecting. But what we're going to do is create a dynamic description for this. So if you
Okay.
want to create the description object, what we're going to do is use the type as the keys of the object. So we'll have one
Oh,
for
okay.
atom, one for whole, one for
Copy. Thank goodness
yes,
for your
copy.
typing.
Exactly.
There we go.
Yeah, this isn't loading yet, so we'll have to give it just a minute.
All right.
Oh, it looks like I need to sign.
Yeah. It always kind of buries that lead there.
Yeah, that's okay. And then for the alley prop, what we're going to do is have the description be the description object.
Description. It would be like description at type. Right?
Yep, just like that. So then I can write those descriptions really quick. I just need to get the link again now that I've signed in.
Okay. And probably even your description for the atom would have some dynamic stuff, right? Because you would like to know just how unstable it is, right? Like
Exactly.
yeah.
Exactly. So we'll probably need to add that in eventually, but for right now,
Yes.
okay.
Especially with kind of the time that we've got.
Exactly. So this isn't loading for me. So you can just put whatever you want in the description just so that we can tell the difference between the different things.
All right. So I might say that this is unstable atom or arum, apparently. What would make sense for copy?
What this does is it infinitely duplicates particles that enter it. So when one particle comes in, it creates 3 more particles in the other 3 directions.
Duplicates particles, perhaps. We would think about a more succinct and expressive description, but
I'll take care of that later.
Exercise left for the developer here, and then a wormhole.
This is the black hole, actually.
Black hole, got it.
Yep.
Black hole
this eats any particles.
Eats any particles. Got it.
Yep. So at this point, let's do one more thing with our description.
Okay.
If you scroll up just a little bit, hang on, my chat is still right in front of the stream, so I've got to close that. Keep scrolling up just a little bit, and we'll see that.
This frame, I'm thinking.
Perfect. That's perfect. We have a cell prop, which is it's a number from 0 to 63 that represents the cell that we're in.
Oh, okay.
So it would be good for us to describe which cell we're in as they're navigating through. So we can use Battleship style, where we have numbers along the bottom or top.
Okay.
I'm not sure which it should be. Or bottom or side. I'll let you pick. You can choose whatever you want.
Yeah, let's do bottom and left. Would be.
Yeah, but bottom would be letters or bottom would be numbers.
Oh, I see. Let me spend some time just Googling Battleship.
Okay,
because
great.
Convention is important.
Yeah, but I'll explain the next bit of code while you're writing it, or while you're discovering it.
I don't know
what we're going to do. Battleship board game, Battleship Hasbro, I don't know. We're going to use the mod operator, or rather the remainder operator, if you're a JavaScript pedant, to figure out what the x coordinate is from 0 to 7. And then we'll do the same thing to figure out the y coordinate by using math.floor by dividing our cell number by 8.
Okay.
So it looks like x is letters,
Yes.
y is numbers.
Cool. And it goes 1 at the top and then increases as you go down. Okay.
Exactly.
So let's do this, I guess, back here. So probably
Mhm,
before the
perfect.
description. I think?
No, because
okay.
we're just going to interpolate it in the prop itself.
Oh, got it. Okay. Okay. So
Yep.
const
So
x
if you
equals. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
and that would be cell with the remainder, so %8. And then for the y, it's going to be math.floor cell divided by 8. And then just to have it handy, let's get those first 8 letters of the alphabet into a variable so we can access them by index.
All right. Grid letters equals.
And you could do the same thing with numbers, but I think using math would be easier.
Yeah.
Sorry, that was a joke.
So
then,
yeah.
Then we can just interpolate it together in our description prop using a tag template literal.
Got it. And so here we're gonna have this as the variable, and then probably like comma, and then it would be, we want the x, so it's gonna be grid letters at x, and then we want our number, and so that's just gonna be directly y.
Yeah, but I think y plus 1 so that it goes from 1 to 8.
Because people aren't used to zero-based index.
Their index, I know, right? That should do it, actually. This should make it so that we can see any atom that's on our 3D view. And then we would duplicate this exact same alley component when we, for the mirrors, for the wormholes, which are different from the black holes, and for the arrows. Give me just a second to look at the docs, because I think there's one more prop that might be handy to put on the alley component. And that would be I just barely saw it. I just have to find it again in the docs. Show alt text.
Show alt text.
Yeah, so this right here is a great example of how accessible features are features for everybody. Wouldn't it be nice if you could just hover over one of these with your cursor and it pops up a little alt text tooltip explaining the very description that we provide to the screen readers?
Okay. I feel like this library is maybe conflating alt and title text, but I see what it's going for.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. It would be more appropriate to call it title text.
Okay. So we've told it whether it's like just some static content, just like an atom that exists in the world, or whether it's a button that we can click. We've told it here's the description, here's what we want you to announce, right? Like we're gonna describe the type of atom and what you can do with it, and also here's where it exists in the grid. And if you hover over it, it'll give you a little tooltip that will tell this description for you.
Bingo.
Okay, very cool. And that should just already be live, huh?
Yes.
Let's do a quick demo of that, I think.
Yep.
Let me begin this.
We should be able to demo the screen reader and the tooltip when you hover over it.
Yes, we will for sure demo both. Why would it not? Okay. No, don't open up my keyboard axis. I swear every time I open up the spotlight search, it's because I want to open up accessibility. Let me just type that in bold. Watch, it's still gonna open up the keychain. Oh no, there we go. We can open it. All right, voiceover. I'm just gonna go ahead and start.
That's great.
Voiceover on Chrome, reaction, audio muted, Google Chrome, an appetizing tutorial, button. You are currently on a group inside of web content. To restart level button. You are currently on a button. Leaving reaction. Entering toolbar item palette. Leaving toolbar item palette. Entering reaction web par 10. Restart level button. Go back.
Okay, I don't think we've made these buttons focusable unless because it has the description.
Okay. So that part's working.
Yeah, it's just not focusable unless
Unstable atom.
Okay, got it. It was in the DOM order after the restart and go back buttons. That's what it was.
Okay. So that's
Unstable
something
atom
that needs to be
B4.
adjusted. In fact, yeah, once we are done playing around here, we should definitely take a look at the DOM to see what's going on.
I'd be super fascinated
tools.
to see that. Yeah, I'm gonna just play through this and we'll see what the various announcements are.
Unstable atom D4. Unstable atom F4 button. Unstable atom H4 button. Unstable atom B6 button.
Okay, now what I want to do though is I want to go back and pick a different level that has more interesting things.
Go back button. You are currently on a group inside start game button. Up and atom button. You are currently on a button inside of web content. To click this button, restart level button. Go back button. Unstable atom B2 button. Unstable atom C4 button.
This doesn't actually have anything that we didn't already describe.
Go back button. You are currently on a group.
I'm afraid
dimmed
we
button.
only added it to the atoms. We didn't add the
Yeah.
alley component to the mirrors or arrows or anything else.
Is there anything in here that would have the copy in there or the whole?
We probably would have to navigate, like play through a little bit in order to get there, or we could just edit the levels if you wanted.
Yeah, it's probably fine, but we saw how we were able to add that announcement. And now I guess I want to take a look at the DOM there. Let me kill voiceover real quick.
Voiceover off.
Okay, so we'll dive. Here we are. Oh, there is a black hole. Look, so it's got that description. It says it's B3. All right, I'm very curious to see what's in the DOM.
I am too, actually. This is kind of exciting.
Yeah, I'm digging this. My computer recently has taken to being very slow while streaming.
That's because of the 3D view, I'm afraid.
It happened when I was doing some 11D stuff as well on Friday. But okay, so
maybe 11D is built with 3.js. I don't know.
You got 3D render like all the pages before you can just output it to static HTML. If you're not 3D rendering your pages before outputting them to static HTML, are you even really doing web development?
Hot take right there.
All right, so we've got the canvas. But then this actually seems to be what we've been working with. Like these divs right here, which follow the canvas, seem to actually be the stuff that we're providing. Div style. And inside here, we can see that we've got an actual button. Oh, okay. That's fun. So I think the styles, the inline styles that are being applied here are doing stuff to put it very far off screen. Oh no, actually I think okay, so you know how when I was tabbing through the page, it showed like voiceover showed the black outline of like where the stuff was. These styles are positioning it to where basically the hidden text or the hidden buttons are in the same location, just like behind the canvas, I think.
Yeah.
So that way,
which is way cool.
Yeah, that's such a neat touch. Wow. Super cool.
Yeah. I don't know how difficult that is, because it would have to discover everything, like the position of all of its children, so it knows the bounding of the box that it should create.
Yeah.
But once you do that, then yeah, you can make a little div, a transparent div wherever you want.
Yeah. And I can see we've got opacity 0. This is interesting to me that it's doing opacity 0, because once upon a time, opacity 0, some browsers would use this as a cue to basically say, don't expose this thing to assistive technology at all. But I want to say that I've recently learned that that no longer happens in browsers, so that's good. But yeah,
that is good.
Basically hiding the button, but putting the button still in the same two-dimensional location as what sighted users would consider the button, which is very cool.
Yeah. That is very cool. And the fact that it's so dynamic, it works great. Like,
Um, we've got paragraph tags here. I'm betting that some of this is different too because we told it to show tooltips. So
It's possible. I mean, I don't know if we have time, but we could look at the difference either way. But I imagine, yeah, I don't know how it does the tooltips, to be honest.
yeah,
Whether it's just using the title attribute or
that wasn't
something
titled.
else.
That certainly wasn't titled because it seemed custom styled.
So maybe they have their own, yeah,
Yeah.
element that they use for that, but it's still pretty slick.
Yeah, wow. So much stuff in here. Wow. And here we've got at the bottom, we suspected that there was an Aria live region, right? And it's got it.
It is
Well
polite.
how well do you understand these Aria live attributes, the Aria atomic and Aria live?
Right. But probably better for us to explain it just to make sure that all of the viewers understand. Basically, we can put stuff inside of this div, and based on the Aria Live attribute itself, it will announce it to the user via the screen reader. Polite means that if there's some other announcement that's happening, it will wait until that announcement is over before making its announcement. But if it's something that's actually very important, you can change it to, I forget what the actual attribute
Assertive.
is. Assertive, which means that it will interrupt itself and announce whatever thing you put into the div. And that way you can have it announce whatever you want whenever something happens.
Yeah. Assertive is good when you've got like errors and other things that you need the end user to like deal with immediately.
Right.
But yeah, so I do appreciate that they've gone with polite just because that is, if you go with assertive, that is a very strong opinion to make as a default.
It would not surprise me if it was possible for you to make it so that it is assertive if you want, like just as an option. I could be wrong, but so for this particular app, what I might do is once everything's settled down, once there are no more particles flying around, I would have it announce what the end result of that particular action was, if there was a result at all. So you could say 5 atoms burst, 3 atoms remain, and then it could go from there.
Yeah, figuring out like how to describe game output is such a tricky thing, and this is almost one of those things that like chess would have really easily because chess there's a standardized chess notation for a move that people have made, and so it would probably be sufficient just to announce like E2, E4,
Right.
and just kind of trust that the end user understands chess notation and can also navigate the chessboard in a grid-like manner.
Yeah.
While we don't really have time for it today, I would still suggest seeing if there is a way to basically render this in a grid format so that people aren't forced to like navigate through this sequentially, like from in theory top left to right, like left to right, top to bottom. They could navigate it in 2 dimensions. That would really help them build a mental model as opposed to like Battleship notation.
Exactly. One other thing that I want to look at before we finish the stream is how to handle focus. So if you want to hop back over to the Poimandris docs for this.
Yes, which is here. There we go. Yes.
And then scroll up because we're going to go to the actual Poimandris website.
Okay. There's a link,
that
right?
should be very close. Yes, right there.
Okay.
And then just open up the button role. Because the idea is content role shouldn't have any focus on it, but buttons absolutely should have focus. And we can see it has the action call event handler that you can set up, which is going to, the activation message. That's what I meant. That actually is going to be using the Aria Live region to announce whatever message you want to announce when you click the button.
Yeah, so we could say something like this button has now reached the 3rd level of stability, or this button has exploded and is firing, or something like that.
Exactly.
Interesting.
And then if you scroll down just a little bit more, there's also the use alley hook which you
Oh.
can use inside of an alley encapsulated component, and that gives you access to some of the um, accessibility states. So whether it's hovered, whether it's focused,
Oh.
and
That, I feel like there has to be some docs for the use alley hook though. We could take a look at.
I feel like that's something that's missing here, but that's okay.
Okay.
So what we would do is inside of our atom component, we could change the color. We could render another component around it. So maybe there's a circle that renders around it when it's focused. However we want to style it, but this gives us the ability to see that focus state and re-render according to that.
Gotcha. Very cool. Very cool. Is there any of that you want to try right now while we've got time?
No, I think it'll take a little bit too long, so we'll just
All right.
leave that for if you want to check this out. The docs that I linked to and that we're looking at right now have a demo that you can play with to see exactly how that focus works.
Okay. Well, very, very cool. So, I guess to kind of summarize, and you can let me know if there's anything that I've left out here, but when we're dealing with 3D space, it's still helpful for us to maintain basically an alternate DOM that's like, here's the sequential navigation mode of the page that includes all the text stuff and also all of the like focusable button type elements. Basically, this kind of hidden DOM that represents a version of the three-dimensional rendering. And we can continue to use our semantics in there, such as buttons and paragraph tags. And this library does a lot of cool magic, like making sure that everything is placed in the same order as well as in the same two-dimensional location, so that like voiceover outlines come through, which is super super cool. And we can also use like Aria live regions to provide status updates about our page and what's happening in there.
Bingo.
Yeah.
Yep, that's pretty much it.
And there's
So
I think there's tons of other things too that you could consider for this. Like it might be worth looking into using like prefers reduced motion to keep the atoms from spinning while like if someone for instance has a vestibular disorder and wouldn't want that extra motion.
for sure. And if you go into the user preferences documentation, there's a alley user preferences component that gives you some context. It just injects that into context, and then you can access that with the user preferences hook. And it looks like it gives you reduce or prefers reduced motion and prefers color scheme.
That's really cool. Okay.
Yep. So great suggestion, and this library already has it.
Mhm.
I think if I were to do this myself, I probably would have to do a fork of the library to make sure that we get the positioning and the table layout working correctly, since it doesn't look like you can do table layouts with this
Yeah.
as it is.
Mm-hmm.
But it's still like the fact that we were able to get this put together with the linear layout so quickly is pretty awesome.
Absolutely. Alex, anything else while we've got you on? Anything you want to talk about?
I hope everybody in the Pacific Northwest and just Pacific Coast is doing okay.
Mhm.
And lately, I have been feeling like life has been going too fast. So my mantra for the rest of the year is slow down. I would
Okay.
encourage you take a couple of minutes to slow down and just enjoy the great things that are part of all of our lives. That's all I've got.
All right. Well, thank you, Alex. While y'all are all here, go follow Alex. I've put his Twitter in the chat. Go follow him. And I think you every once in a while might tweet out updates about this game. So
Yes,
if
the game
you,
is
go ahead.
it will be released sometime in the next few months.
Hmm.
I don't know specifically when because I like spending time with my daughter more than I like coding these days. So I'll get around to it though. It will happen, and when it does, you'll hear about it on Twitter.
All right. In the meantime, you can also go follow me on Twitter at some antics dev. This is where you find out about all the updates, including whenever I figure out what's happening next week. I don't have anyone booked yet, and I need to figure that one out. So if you want to hop on the stream, or if you know someone who would be a good stream guest, reach out, ping me, and I would love to talk. Y'all, this has been good. Stick around for a hot second because I'm going to go ahead and raid Kevin Powell. He's going to be doing some excellent CSS stuff involving scrolling. And thank you all for joining today. Thank you again, Alex.
Thank you so much, Ben.
Bye.
Bye.